I can't believe I've never done a top 10 Final Girls because I've done so many freaking ranking videos. But we're not going to do one this time either. We're going to do top 10 underrated Final Girls. All right? So there's not going to be any like Laurie, Nancy, Erin, any of those in this top 10. So anyway, let's count down my top 10 most underrated Final Girls. Let's go. What's up, guys? Welcome to another top 10. I'm literally recording 3 top 10s right now. My next 3 or 4 videos will be top 10 videos. I might have the Batman spoiler review sandwiched in there somewhere. But you know what? I figured this will be like top 10 week. I'm gonna give you guys a lot of top 10s because you guys seem to love these types of videos. So it's gonna be fun. And some background on this particular top 10 underrated Final Girls. We often get conversations going in Killer Flicks just spontaneously, and Mia, one of our mods and a good friend, she posted something about Final Girls, and it got me thinking about underrated Final Girls, so I kind of branched off of that. And then there's so much chatter in that thread that I thought, you know what, screw it, let's do a top 10. So a lot of these I actually got from that thread as well. But Maurice Boney asked for a shout out, so he gets a shout out, and of course Mia gets a shout out for this list. So anyway, let's give you some honorable mentions. I'm gonna give you 3 honorable mentions. First one is gonna be Needy from Jennifer's Body. And I really like Needy because this movie, the final girl isn't Jennifer, who is kind of the focus of the movie. You know, all the bad shit happens to her. The final girl is more Needy because she's the sidekick, you know? So this is the character that you normally wouldn't be rooting for, I guess. But I like Needy because Jennifer, even before she becomes like a demon, she gets all the attention. She's Megan Fox. She's really pretty. And, you know, Amanda Seyfried's nothing to sneeze at. I know that, but they played her beauty down in this movie because she's not supposed to be like the sex pot type character. And so she's the one that has to kind of overcome all these obstacles along the way. Jennifer is actually her best friend, but eventually they, you know, kind of butt heads with each other. And so the final battle in the movie is between them two. And Needy somewhat loses her mind throughout this movie, but you can't help but root for her thanks to the great performance by Amanda Seyfried and thanks to that kissing scene between her and Megan Fox. Okay, next underrated final girl is gonna be Jennifer from the Wrong Turn remake. Played by Charlotte Vega. The Wrong Turn remake actually surprised the hell out of me. I've only seen that one and the original movie. I haven't seen any of the sequels. But this one, written by Alan B. McElroy, who wrote the original, it's pretty ambitious, you know? It's a very unique little remake. I like that this one didn't completely copy the first movie. It kind of formed its own rules, created its own story. Some people were even saying this shouldn't have been called Wrong Turn. I kind of disagree with that. But the standout here for me was our main character, Jennifer, who is friends with this group of people, and her and her boyfriend, they want to kind of establish this new community. You know, they're kind of entrepreneurs, but they end up getting intercepted by this crazy group of mountain people called the Foundation. And I just liked her perseverance throughout this, how she's like at one point captured in the movie and she's got to find a way to break out. So a lot goes on with this character throughout this movie. And the final scene that actually happens during the credits, I'm literally cheering and jumping for joy because of Jennifer. She is so awesome in the last scene in the Wrong Turn remake. And last honorable mention, I'm gonna go with Angela from P2, played by Rachel Nichols. This is one of those movies where it's just this character stuck in this parking structure throughout the entire movie, and she is driven crazy by Wes Bentley, who is a very underrated maniac. But I liked her because, you know, Wes Bentley's character is this obsessed type of guy, and he's like in love with her, or in lust with her, or whatever. And so he has her kidnapped throughout the movie, and so she has to try to find a way to break free and find her freedom. But like most final girls that we love, she constantly fights back. She not only uses her physicality, but she also has to use her mind her seduction powers, because she can use that against him because like he's in love with her. And she uses that to her advantage in the end. All right, here we go. Top 10. Number 10, Mia from the Evil Dead remake, which that remake is one of my favorite remakes. It's so freaking awesome. But Jane Levy, I think she could have been like a scream queen if she would have gotten a couple more horror movies under her belt. But man, does she pack a punch in this movie, because she becomes a deadite. You know, she's this drug addict, and her brother and friends are bringing her out to the cabin, and they're trying to help her get clean. And so they don't trust anything she says, which is a nice little setup, because of course, as soon as she comes in contact with the deadites, then she's begging them to get the hell out of there, but they won't. So eventually she becomes a deadite. Man, her journey throughout this movie, you know, overcoming all that, thanks to her brother who saves her, by the way. But man, she comes out of there and she just goes balls to the wall. She ends up getting her hand cut off and gets a chainsaw. But the final act, oh my God, one of the bloodiest freaking movies I've ever seen. And Jane Levy is freaking awesome as Mia. Number 9 is Maddie from Hush. And I put this one on here because I forgot how effective she was. I swear everybody in Killer Flicks was throwing her name out. There's quite a few that mention Maddie from Hush. And you know what? It's true, because she's a deaf character. So it's tough when you have to lose one of your senses like that. You can't hear, and you know, all you can do is see, and then you got this freaking mass killer that's standing right outside your window. You know, it's a great home invasion movie. And when you take away, you know, one of our basic necessities, it makes it even more interesting. They recently did this premise with a blind person too, which I knew it was just a matter of time. But I think Hush is much more effective because you got Mike Flanagan behind the camera. But Maddie proves it. Just because you're disabled doesn't mean you're not strong. And she uses her wits throughout the movie, and especially in the end when she goes apeshit on the guy. And you can't help but root for her. Number 8 is Jill Johnson from When a Stranger Calls. I recently reviewed all 3 of those movies, including the remake. And I forgot how effective Carol Kane was as Jill Johnson in really both movies, the first movie and When a Stranger Calls Back. But in the first movie, boy, she goes through an arc, because, you know, she's just this young, innocent babysitter, and she's terrorized in the opening 20 minutes, which are the most effective, chilling, tension-filled opening 20 minutes of pretty much any horror movie. It's legendary. But then we circle back around to her in the final act, where she's a different person. You know, she's grown up quite a bit. It's 7 years later, and she has to face the killer head on. And the scene where she's in the restaurant and she gets the call, "Have you checked the children?" Can you imagine, like, 7 years later, you think you've moved on from this atrocity that happened so long ago, and then boom, it's like right there again. And her performance is so good, but she fights back. You know, she gets home and she gets in the bed and he pops out of the bed and she kicks ass. Number 7, Kenzie from Strangers Pray at Night. Funny enough, 2 movies with the word stranger in them. I didn't even realize it. But I've been waiting to put Kenzie on a top 10 Final Girl list forever. Ever since I saw Strangers Pray at Night, opening night, and was just blown away by this performance. This was a young actress, Bailey Madison, that really just gives it her all. You know, you could tell that she really had a good time doing this movie and swinging for the fences, you know, because she knows, okay, I get to be a final girl. Not everybody can say that. And I get a chance to kick ass. And she has this great relationship with her brother. But in the end, when you got that great scene, trucks on fire, Making Love Out of Nothing at All by Air Supply, and she, you know, she's literally crawling away from the killer. What's up, Damon Maffey? Man, I was on cloud 9. This was so damn refreshing. I hadn't seen a Final Girl this effective probably since Erin in You're Next. By the way, Erin's not going to be on this list because she's one of the first people that people mention when you talk about Final Girls. So that's not an underrated Final Girl. Underrated means not too many people mention them. Number 6, Trish from Friday the 13th, the final chapter. You gotta have a Friday movie on here. The Friday franchise is known for excellent Final Girls. And I think Trish doesn't get mentioned as much as she should because she's protecting her brother, which funny enough, Kenzie is kind of protecting her brother too. They're protecting each other. But Trish, you know, her little brother, Corey Feldman, Tommy Jarvis, in the end, she's got to fight the most dangerous freaking psychotic killer on the planet Earth, Jason Voorhees, played by Ted White, who is my favorite Jason. And man, you don't want to go against Ted White because you're going to get your ass handed to him. But Trish is great because she doesn't run from him. She faces him head on. I'm not afraid of you. I'm going to do anything I can to stand up for my brother. And you love her. And you know what? Trish is really the textbook definition of a final girl because she's the one person that doesn't have sex throughout the movie, and she lives. Number 5 is Sarah from The Descent, and I almost put Sarah at number 1, but there were some really greats that I thought, nope, I think that's got to go to number 1. So she ended up at number 5. That's to tell you how great these next 4 are after this. But man, Sarah is phenomenal. And The Descent is one of the most emotional horror films ever made. It's probably in my top 20 horror films of all time. I love The Descent so much. It's kind of the opposite of The Thing because it's all women on this excursion together. And Sarah is the character that everybody's going for because of this disaster that happened, this tragedy that happened where her husband and her daughter died. And so she's got to pick up the pieces, but I love her arc in this because she's this waif of a character. She's weak, she's frail. She really doesn't have the strength that she needs. And then there's a scene in the movie when the shit has hit the fan with all these creatures and she's under this, vat of blood and she comes out and it's almost like a rebirth. That scene is literally like the rebirth of a character. After that scene, she becomes a warrior and she is so badass for the duration of the movie. And she has to come toe-to-toe with her friend Juno, who slept with her husband and had kept this secret. So Juno's not a villain, even though she did a horrible thing and she kept it a secret. But that scene is so good because Sarah shows her before she pretty much kills her, even though she just hits her in the leg, but she leaves her there to die. But she lets her know, I know. But Sarah, man, this is the character that you can kind of relate to somebody else that's on the countdown. We'll see here in a bit. There's really 2 birth scenes, her coming out of the vat, but then at the end when she comes out of the cave and that beautiful music that's playing. I get chill bumps every time I watch it. Okay, number 4, Alice from Nightmare on Elm Street. I think Alice, if she would have been in the first movie, then she would have been that much more popular. Lisa Wilcox. Everybody loves Lisa Wilcox. She's always at the conventions. She's overshadowed by Nancy. Nancy is in the big 3 of Final Girls. She's such an important character. But you can't take anything away from Alice because she is the final girl in 2 movies back to back. And she really holds her own. If you want a final girl that's just straight up physical and has this power as well to fight Freddy, she might be more powerful than Nancy, but I think Nancy was she had more gusto, I guess. She was more resourceful. Man, Alice is a freaking badass. It is kind of silly when you're doing karate against Freddy, who's this character in the dreams. But also, she is a character that has a power outside of just being a normal human being. She can use that to fight Freddy, which is cool. She's not the first because Kristen was the first, Patricia Arquette. Number 3, Constance from Just Before Dawn. This is one that many of you might not have seen. And this is a character, probably has the best arc out of any final girl from this whole list. Because she literally has a moment at the beginning of the movie where she tells her boyfriend, I'm scared. I wish I could overcome this fear that I always have. And then they end up in the woods and these mountain men attack them. And so at the end of the movie, she, kind of like Sarah, has her own rebirth and she becomes a straight up badass. And even physically, she looks different than she did at the beginning of the movie. They go all out in every facet possible to show you that this is a transformation of a character. And if you guys haven't seen Just Before Dawn, watch it. A, because it's such a great movie with some amazing kills, but B, Constance, easily one of the best final girls I've ever seen in my life. Number 2, gotta give it up for Sally from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. People don't mention her enough, but you know what? This predates freaking Laurie Strode. She is one of the OG final girls. And she has to go up against probably the craziest chain of events to ever happen in a horror movie. Because it's not just Leatherface she's going up against, but his entire family. That famous dinner scene where they are straight up torturing her. It's so bad that you wouldn't be surprised if she took her own life, you know, because they drive her that mad. But she finds a way to break free and she jumps out the window, and then we all know the famous scene where she gets in the truck. And by the way, she had to shoot that scene twice. And she loses her mind, but she ends up escaping. And I just wanted to put her on here just kind of to honor Marilyn Burns and her performance. You know, it's a legendary performance. And then number 1, Rachel from Halloween 4. My God, I'm so freaking proud to put Rachel at the top of a Final Girl list. And in the one movie, Halloween 4, she earns this title in spades, you know? Has a great arc because she doesn't even want to babysit Jamie Lloyd. She gets herself in trouble at the beginning. But there's a point in the movie where she realizes, I am her only hope, Obi-Wan. I'm your only hope, Jamie. I have to do whatever I can to keep you safe. And she goes out of her way. She fights tooth and nail against Michael Myers, who's probably the most dangerous human being on the planet Earth. And, you know, she goes toe to toe. She literally is on a roof. She falls off the roof and still gets up to come and save Jamie. You feel bad for her at the end because, you know, she feels like she's won. You can tell she's exhausted. And then Jamie Lloyd, the curse has passed on to her. And some people say Halloween 4 isn't really part of the Thorn trilogy, but I think it is because that's the curse. The curse has passed from Myers to her. So it follows all 3 movies. Rachel Carruthers. Man, I've always been such a fan of Ellie Cornell. I think she gave it her all in that character, you know? And I think she's a big reason why Halloween 4 was so successful, because you could not help but root for her. So anyway, guys, that's it. My top 10 underrated Final Girls. This was a lot of fun. I missed out on so many, I know, so let me know down in the comments your favorites. Also, be sure to come over to Killer Flicks, where we talk horror all day and every day on Fridays, Rudy Free for Fridays. Follow my Drumdums on my socials, support me on Patreon, buy me a coffee. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Drumdum out.